So my name is Kim Hallin, and I actually run a for-profit equine experiential learning business outside of Charleston, South Carolina. It is not I'm not PATH certified. It's not a PATH-centered, PATH-certified organization, so I just want to be clear about that. I'm sort of way outside the box. And what I really want you guys to do today is just sort of take off your hats for now of what you normally do, and you get to be the participants who are learning in this and just seeing things from a different perspective. And then you get to decide what you want to take from it, what might be useful for you or what might not. And this is just going to be a taste of a different way of not only interacting with your horses, but potentially incorporating it into your programming or even building a business. So I guess the easiest way to say what was really different about my business, I call it is Equine Experiential Learning, but I came at it from the beginning from wanting to build a business that was as horse-centered as possible. I know those are words that we hear a lot, horse-centered, but part of the reason that I did not go down the path of certification or anything like that is because I personally haven't found that there is a program or a certification program or even very many equine experiential learning programs out there right now that are truly built to be horse-centered and to put the horse first. So I wanted to see, could I do this? Could I make a business out of this? So all of my programming is built around being able to put my herd first. And my herd, my personal horses, I have 3 in my herd right now, and a potbelly pig. He's part of the business as well. But my horses are not your typical program horses you would find in equine experiential learning. One of my mares has a history of aggression. All of my horses have, I believe actually, honestly, all domestic horses have trauma pasts. Living in the domestic world is inherently challenging for horses, right? Horses were born to be wild, like that's what horses were. So that the world that we live in and we have them live in is challenging for them. So we talked, one of the presentations I was in yesterday was about trauma-informed practice, and it was interesting. I do work from a trauma-informed perspective, both with the participants, but actually with the horses. So a lot of the things we talked about, how do you approach people in a trauma-informed way? Is it possible to approach horses in a trauma-informed way? And so I don't do any kind of programming that doesn't allow me to put the horses first. It doesn't mean I don't put participants first also, but if it's programming that doesn't allow me to put my particular horses first with their gifts and limitations both, then I don't do that type of programming. So I have ended up doing 90% of what I do is observation-based. That doesn't mean that we don't ever interact with the horses, but we always start like this outside of the pasture, and we do a lot of observation. And my program is based in kind of 2 questions. First is, what is a horse? And then, who is the horse in front of us? Who are each of these horses? And we think we know those as equestrians. We think we know what a horse is, but I think I'm probably gonna say some things today that you'll be like, I never knew that. I spent my whole life, with horses in a more traditional ways, and realized that one, there was a lot of stuff I never learned. Nobody ever taught me. And then there was a lot of stuff that I was taught that isn't true, that is accepted as standard practice, standard knowledge, even in natural horsemanship. It is not actually true about horses from an ethological perspective. So I think you might have the book, Lucy Reese's book. I've not had the privilege of spending a lot of time with wild horses, but I've done a lot of studying. And this particular book, by Lucy Reese, is called Horses and Company. And she is one of the world's best ethologists, and she's collected a lot of evidence from wild horse herds around the world to say what is common in truly wild herds. So that's what I wanted to start with. I wanted to start with understanding what is a horse naturally, not what have we taught about horses, what is a domestic horse, what is a program horse, but what is a horse from an evolutionary and ethological perspective. And that's what I teach on. In doing that, I also draw a lot of, we talk about how our domestic horses are different than wild horses, how they're the same, what's similar, and also how a lot of the behavior issues that we see in domestic horses are because the way that we're asking them to live and operate is so different from what they were actually evolved to be that they can't cope. So they're coping strategies. And when we talk about that and people can see the horses demonstrating these coping strategies, it makes us realize that we have a lot of the same coping strategies. The domestic world is also very challenging for humans. It's also very unnatural for humans. So there's actually a lot of things that we recognize in the horses that participants then open up and say, oh my gosh, I relate to that so much. That's hard for me too. So that's one of the ways just observing can be therapeutic.